Good afternoon, one and all. I'm Kanika Nenanway from Masina Institute of Psychotherapy and Behavioural Sciences, Masina Hospital, Mumbai. The topic of the study is a study of proactive coping and spiritual well-being as key factors in relapse prevention among people with substance use disorders. Substance use disorders are a complex behavioral disorders characterized by preoccupation with obtaining alcohol or other drugs, and a narrowing of behavioral repertoire towards excessive consumption and loss of control over consumption of the substance. It includes both abuse as well as chemical dependence. Empirical research on substance use disorders and its treatment corroborates that in the disorder of substances, relapses are rather the rule than the exception. 46% of patients have relapsed 6 months after their treatment. Hence, it is imperative for us to focus on factors that would help us to prevent relapse. My study focuses on 2 factors, proactive coping and spiritual well-being. Proactive coping is autonomous and self-determined goal setting and realization of goals. It deals with self-regulatory goal attainment processes and explains what motivates people to strive for ambitious goals and to commit themselves to personal quality management. Spiritual well-being was defined as satisfaction with one's religious well-being reflected in one's relationship with the Supreme Being, one's existential well-being, and one's sense of meaning and purpose. And relapse is the return of substance use after a significant period of abstinence, which involves a recurrent use of substance and loss of control over consumption. A few studies. Terence Gorski has put forth a theory which says that human beings not only think and feel, but they are also conscious about the fact that they do so. This personal consciousness drives people to find meaning and purpose in human existence. This desire for a sense of meaning that transcends the physical has led many recovering people to a search for the laws or organizing principles of the non-physical dimension of human existence. People who live in accordance with the universal laws find peace and serenity, and they discover a sense of meaning and purpose in their sobriety. Jim Orford put forth a concept of spiritual awakening, wherein he says that spiritual practices may promote incremental changes over time, but they may also result in dramatic epiphanies or spiritual awakenings, and such spiritual awakenings can cause profound emotional release, which can free a person from the addiction and the craving. A Marlett and Gordon model suggested that people who have coped successfully or proactively with high-risk situations are assumed to experience a heightened sense of self-efficacy. Individuals with high on self-efficacy are more likely to feel that they are able to control the challenging environmental demands by taking adaptive action, which in turn will make them more proactive. So it's like a cyclical model. Which brings us to the problem of the study, to study whether proactive coping and spiritual well-being predict relapse among people with substance use disorders. I hypothesize that proactive coping and spiritual well-being significantly predict relapse prevention among people with substance use disorders. The predictive variables and the criterion variables of my study are here. It was a correlational design with a sample of 100 males in the age range of 20 to 55 years, taken with the help of incidental sampling. The tools used were proactive coping inventory by Greengrass et al. And spiritual well-being scale by Palaudzin and Ellison. These were the descriptive statistics of my study. Moving on to the results, the regression analysis shows us that both proactive coping and spiritual well-being have a correlation of 0.8 with the criterion variable relapse, and the adjusted R-square is 0.667, which suggests that these two variables account for 67% of variance on the criterion variable relapse. This whole model was checked for significance using the ANOVA test, and as we see the F value of 100.246, it was significant at 0.000 Further, the beta coefficients for spiritual well-being were 0.658, and that for proactive coping was 0.180. And when a t-test was conducted, it was found that spiritual well-being had a strong impact on relapse prevention. Thus, we can conclude that spiritual well-being and proactive coping were found to be significant predictors of relapse prevention, and it implies that these variables should be included in the treatment plan for substance use disorders. If we can enhance the spiritual well-being of an individual and teach them proactive coping strategies while in treatment, then we can maybe prevent relapse. Thank you.
Questions?
Definitely.
So, what are the exact techniques which can be used to solve this concern?
The techniques for enhancing spiritual well-being is beyond the purview of my study one. But during the process of my reading, there have been a lot of spiritual techniques like mindfulness training and yoga, meditation, also going to AA because they also have a religious sort of methodology that they follow. So these things do help them. Also that spiritual well-being cannot be developed overnight in a treatment procedure. So it would be a long-term aim. So it wouldn't happen overnight or in a inpatient sort of situation. I hope I've answered what you wanted to know.
We want that we should have other audience also as active listener as this. What is your name, beta? आपने जिन्होंने question पूछा था अभी. Okay. Akash, I want others to be as active listener as Akash Deep is. And more questions. Any language. No, language should not be a bar. Please ask. Ask anything.
Dance therapy, music therapy come under the purview of spiritual well-being because they're used a lot with substance abuse.
They are used a lot with substance abuse with dance therapy. Yeah, it could be. There are two sides to dance therapy as I know. One is the physiological side because it helps with increasing your serotonin levels and the other neurochemicals in your brain. So yes, in that sense, it helps to stabilize the brain activity in substance use. And B, because dance, at least in India, a lot of classical dances are viewed in terms of spirituality because they're a way of life and yes, so you can use that. Yeah. Any more questions, ma'am?
Can you please elaborate a little bit on proactive coping?
Sure. Basically, what proactive coping says is that it's an autonomous and self-determined goal setting and realization of goals. So it deals, and I shouldn't read this again. What I'm trying to say is somebody who has a proactive coping style will actually see in advance the cues that are coming in. So it's not that you're going to cope after an event. You already know, you've already picked up the cues from the environment before it could really happen. And
that means before a person becomes a victim of substance abuse.
Yes. So he will already foresee his triggers. He will. It involves a lot of other things, including resource allocation. So he will see where he can, sort of use his resources, what can be done in order to deal with them. And therefore, even before the situation comes as a stress on him, because he's already perceived it, because he's already used his resource allocation and other skills, he won't perceive it as stress at all. So it won't trigger him. Yes, the trigger cue will be there, but it fails to trigger him because he's already foreseen it and already works towards, going around it.
But such persons, do they become victims of substance abuse?
We're talking about people who are already victims.
Already victims.
Yeah. This is a study for preventing relapse. So they've already had an exposure.
And now they have developed this proactive coping.
Yeah. So now when it's a predictive study, ma'am. So if we develop this, according to the study, it says that yes, they will be better able to deal with relapse.
Have you also included some kind of community work in spiritual well-being and helping others as a major indicator of spiritual health or something like that?
No, it's well-being. It has only basically two dimensions. The religious well-being, wherein it's your relationship with the Supreme Being, God or whatever other people want to call it, and the existential well-being, wherein it's more to deal with the meaning and purpose of life and how you view it.
I have a question.
Sure.
In your sample, you have taken only the males.
Yes.
Why you have not taken the females?
Like I said, it's incidental sampling, and we didn't find enough females who had already taken treatment and who were, either relapsed or abstinent and would want to partake in this study.